Oh, oh, third time. Change of topic slightly, I think, may help. Um, so yeah, basically, if you look at all these stories, they are all referring to within you. The whole universe is always within. That is how it always is, and that is always. Sorry, that's always how. I'll get this right in a minute. That is how this has always been. That has been to um, make us seem to be far lesser than we are. Now, we do have a very worrying problem, which Christine, Holographic Multiverse channel, has pointed out about this frontal temporal dementia that is affecting so many. And you do have a situation where you probably have something in the region of 75%. Hi, I am human. Hi, Rudy. You do have this situation where about 75% of the world's population does have a form of dementia, and they are externally driven rather than internally driven. The internally driven people are the ones that are the free thinkers, the ones that will question things. I'm hoping that the sound hasn't cut, but you'll notice I'm not getting annoyed with it because I take it as a compliment. Because if what I'm saying is revealing something, well, good. They're shitting themselves anyway because they know they've lost. I know they've lost. I'm just trying to send them on their way. Service with the tipple and the way it's put out, why it's put out, because it is feeding on negative energy. And I was sent a link to something about Donald Trump, and I just used a GIF and did a face palm thing back because it's like, really, oh, that's just soap theatre. It is feeding something while you're paying attention to it. The best way forward is, as I've suggested, is we just start saying no, because actually, now there's supposed to be a world debt of 323 trillion. Well, normally if there is a bill to be paid, there's a bill presented which will have a name on it. So I would like to pay that bill, this world debt. I'm quite happy to do it, but I need to see the paperwork first, don't I? And I need to see who the money is owed to. And this is why I am saying no to pay. I'm not going to pay taxes. I'm not going to pay for energy supply. I'm not paying for anything. Why should I? Because all they do is waste the money. It is overspending. And I'm taking this on the official narrative and the assumption that these governments are in control of things, but they're spending way beyond their means. They're debt slaves as well, you could say. But that's just wasteful. And I didn't agree to half this money is spent on, and I certainly don't agree with paying for weapons to kill somebody else or to do damage to anywhere on the planet. I'm not paying into that. To hell with it. I will go to court and I will tell the judge as well, because they give me a book to say, take this in your right hand. And I'll say, well, hang on a minute, it says in there about judging. Who's going to judge? So that's a bit of a contradiction in terms anyway. And then I shall ask this judge which oath he is operating under. His secret society one, or the one that he took when he was made an ordinary, a judge. And he is an ordinary. Why the fuck am I even talking to him? And who's he to ask me questions? I shall be asking him questions. Every accusation he puts to me, I shall throw one back at him. And if he says, right, we're adjourned for lunch, I said, no, we are not. I'm standing here as the accused, and I'm actually the beneficiary. And I'll say when this case is finished, and if you walk out the court, you've jumped ship, and therefore I will dismiss the case. That is it. There's nothing they can do about it, and I will not give the power over me, because I do not understand either. Whew, going into a rant now. It's channeled anger. Okay. Okay, third attempt at Prometheus means. That's the thing to remember when you see all these things. Hi, Marie. Don't sit as singular. That's the trick, because everything is flipped over and reversed. See it that it's multiple, because you're all sons of God. You're not looking for a singular one. You're not looking outside of yourself. Everything is always within. And I'm going to say that cliche saying, which I think Buddha is supposed to have said, and pretty much everybody else who is genuine, and even the not so genuine controlled opposition will say, don't take my word for it, do your own research. But I'm saying, if it feels right, if you really get to know yourself, now from that, now if you're getting a pain sensation in your body somewhere, that is your body saying, we've got a problem down here. That's the time to address it. Don't leave it. Don't go to a doctor. Take the whole route. Use your intuition. Go within yourself for the answers for what is right for you. Hi, Percy. I'm going to try and keep up with these comments. I haven't really got much else to say because I did cover it on the Prometheus. To go within yourself, you have enormous power and energy within yourself. And when I say power, I'm not talking in the hierarchical power over somebody else sense, but you have the power over yourself. You are in control of yourself. A lot of what people happens to people, they bring it upon themselves. They energetically, we're like magnets. They're drawing that energy towards themselves. And they go down the most ridiculous routes. They go to doctors. They go to hospitals. They go and have treatments. Well, who's getting the treat out of it? Because it's not the so-called patient. You're a patient because you're going to be waiting for a long, long time, and you are going to be on a ward in a hospital, which is a military term. And guess where else has wards apart from hospitals? They also have cells to put your cells in and lock you up. These words are not accidental with any of these things. You need to pay very particular attention. Listen, as I said before, listen to the sound and forget the actual spelling. Then you'll know the difference between pray to God and being pray to God. For example, just one vowel change changes that entire meaning of that sentence. There's another very good one. Children should be seen and not heard. Slight misspelling of that. Children, as in a child, should be seen and not heard, as in part of the herd, as part of the cattle or the sheep that are following. Because to follow is to fallow. And you're really up the creek then. Your vessel is without compass, it is without oars, because your oars have been docked, and you'll have to go where the cash flow takes you, influenced by the banks. This is, I'm sort of borrowing off of Jordan Maxwell a lot here with this. But once you understand these words and how they have these double meanings, and interestingly, it looks like everything is in reverse with this rising in the east, setting in the west. Yes, the sun does that. But going towards the light, wouldn't it be better to be heading east instead of heading west? So we're going to meet it. To me, that makes more sense, because seeing the way, the pattern with everything, how everything is flipped over. And it is with the Iru, and it is with the divine masculine, divine feminine. Just look at nature, as I've said before. Look at the peacock compared to the peahen, bird feathers, the colours. It's always the males that are brightly coloured. But look what they've done with the fashion industry. It's women that where it's changing now, but it was women that wore the bright colours. It's flipping over nature completely. You'll notice also women have been encouraged in particular to wear high heels because it takes your soul out of contact with the earth. Because the one thing the dark side fears most is divine feminine, which is women's intuition. It's sharper. Women's pineal glands are greater than men. This comes from Gray's Anatomy, by the way. And children's are proportionally larger than in adults. Because you look at a child before it gets put into the education system, for example, it is inquisitive, it is open. It is not following a curriculum or a syllabus. And a curriculum is a circle, which comes from the word Circes, and it's where you get the word church. Now, Circes was this Greek goddess who would hypnotize people, lure them into a room, and then feed off their energy. Well, that's exactly what the education system does as well. It's a filtering system. It's picking out the brighter ones that it'll want to keep an eye on. It'll want to push them into university and encourage them to get them further into this system by varying degrees. This is why you get degrees. And then when you have really bought into this control system, because yes, you're going to have to pay for your college fees, don't forget, or somebody is going to have to, or they will get you in debt, so you're forever paying it off back to them, with interest, of course. Wow. 4-year-old told me the moon is inside the sun. Well, why not? I mean, I've suggested that it's like a back projection, like a mobile in a baby's room. So everything is coming up and is projected onto a ceiling above us, regardless of what you want to call it. But I mean, think about aircraft, even civil airliners. You can have a look on and find out, say, for a 747, what is its maximum altitude. It is described as a surface ceiling. And ceiling is an interesting word because you can spell that S-E-A-L. It implies waters above just from that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. As far as I know, is my idea that it could be a back projection, knowing how they flip everything over. Everything is within, go in. That's the heart. The heart is an anagram of Earth. So maybe the heart of everything is the Earth in this physical form. So maybe it is all coming, projects up. I think there is the green lights, the northern lights, as they're called. The black sun coming out as green, appearing as green light. But I'm not really worried too much about that. It's the patterns to things. All the answered later once we've got this awful control system out of the way, because all that is, you can't go and prove whether there's an Antarctic or not. You can't, when they show you anything saying, oh, this expedition has gone to the Arctic or the Antarctic, you don't know whether they have or not. There's nothing in Greenland, any frozen area. There's nothing to show it. It's all fake, the whole lot. So pretty much all the way on the line. Oh yeah, there'd be real ice, there'd be freezing cold water, but that's as far as the truth goes. Where the actual location is will be another matter. Drinking love, sharing love. It's actually cold coffee, but the intent is there. Just catching up with the comments again. Right. Actually, I've been quite lucky, really. It's not like I haven't touched the sensitive subjects and used the key words. If you mention, let's say, a certain illegal state in the Middle East, for example, a certain extreme organization to do with Zion, particularly if you're having voicemail messages or even sending messages, you'll find that things with your connection seem to go slightly distorted, shall we say. It's an AI program that is watching, and obviously they say that a computer program can work, I think it is, can work out 70% accuracy what words you're going to say, purely by changes in body temperature and I suppose muscle control of the face and saliva and things, and it can predict 70% of your speech. So I'm sure if they can do that, that they can also very easily look. There'll be a program that picks out keywords. So it's always a good idea to misspell, to disspell, deliberately spell something slightly wrong, but so it's obvious that the other person can understand what's said. Oh, excellent, Marie. I always wonder, because I'm probably sort of shoved, well, with like everybody else, we're all shoved down the bottom and don't get to come up on the homepage. But it's all growing steadily. The quality of the video presentations out there is staggering. There's so many. Like I said before, it would read like a school register in a class if I read out. I recommend, I do put them in the descriptions every now and again. I'll recommend different channels. Normally, if I've mentioned them within the presentation, the crossover between the spiritual and the truth seeking, that's sort of my niche bit, and the words. And hopefully I can maybe explain things other ways other people can't, that sort of make sense. I try and put them into an everyday context, really. And you can see it, but this is the thing where we're students, observers and teachers, and the observing part is very important, because it's not just physical observing, it's observing the sounds of words as well. You'll hear expressions like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that story. Because that's what they're doing. They're selling you a story, and you have cells. It is all to do with feeding off your energy. Another good one is, I've seen these reality programs where people are having trouble selling their house, but unfortunately the prospective buyers are so shallow and cannot actually see the house. They're being distracted by the seller's possessions. As the guy rightly said, they're not buying my possessions, they're buying the house. Now, if they haven't got this internal drive so they can create, and if you don't see yourself in those clothes, then you won't buy those clothes. And that is basically how it works with everything. You've got to feel comfortable and contented with something, otherwise you won't accept it. And because there are so many people with this external control system that is overriding their own thinking, they're not seeing even the most obvious things. It's incredible. It just takes a little bit of standing back from the thing and really listening and really reading the words, and then looking at the things from more than one angle. Something I watched on YouTube yesterday mentioned about a Greek philosopher, and the saying was, only a fool would dismiss something before looking into it properly, which is so often the case. And especially if you're trying to get people to see the error of their ways. Well, something that will benefit them, maybe their health, for example. Someone's complaining of headaches, and you're saying, well, look, have you considered that it might be your diet? But they don't want to hear it, because that's not what they want to hear. They just want a quick fix, because everything is pushed increasingly, and it has to be now, instant. You've got to have it 5 seconds ago. There is no anticipation, there is no thrill and excitement. It is consumption, and it's greed. It has taken the magic part out of when you're saving up to get something. Don't know why I'm talking in monetary terms, but I do remember doing this, and it is more of a thrill when you feel more of achievement when you've got to work for something and put some effort into it. Yes, excellent, Percy. Observer. I mean, sir is an interesting word anyway. It means servant I remain. um, so you're standing under somebody else by using that term. And again, it's encouraging this hierarchical thing when we're actually all equal or should be meeting each other in an equal field. There's another, that just reminds me of another saying that I saw. Look down upon me, I am a fool. Look up to me, I am a king. Look at me, I am your reflection. And that is the place we really want to be. This is the trouble, Marie. That's all we can do. We can only suggest. We can't sort of grab them by the throat and shove the stuff down the throat. So a lot of people's free will is like, oh dear. It's sort of, they're without compass. This is the problem. They're not going within themselves. I mean, there's so many people I've known of over the years that would rather be miserable and happy and stay in a relationship because of the fear of the unknown, of, oh, I'll be on my own for the rest of my life and all this. But this is another thing with this awakening. I forget who it was, a comment came up a little while ago. I replied to, and it does seem very much that part of this spiritual path is being single, as it were. But if you think about it, all alone is all one. I think part of this spiritual message with all of this test upon us is, well, if you're not happy within you and contented within yourself and can just be on your own and sit in silence, and you don't need external distractions, I think that's all geared up to that. This spiritual path is a narrow one to tread, and it seems a very lonely each of us anyway. Well, if we've got the whole universe inside, surely we can entertain ourselves from within anyway. I mean, I can play music in my head from stuff I've heard before and play it all the way through and keep myself quite entertained, or I can sort of meditate and I'm quite happy. Or even doing something like today with this piece of wood I've been sanding to get the grains to come out, and it really is coming up a beautiful piece of wood. Here's one I made earlier. You see, I've still got a bit more to go on this, but it is coming through, this lovely wood grain. I wonder if I'll get linked into the do-it-yourself home improvements section for therapeutic to do. And as I said on the last video, the trees work on draw water up. Water holds memory. Door construction traditionally is crossed pieces because with heat and cold, wood will expand and contract. It's still moving. It doesn't actually keep still. And it works like a collection of straws where the tree will draw water up through tension. So therefore, there must be still some moisture within that wood grain. And if water holds memory, then the tree grains hold memory because it is ingrained within the timber. And I love the idea of giving that, what was once a tree, a new life, rather than burning it anyway. And it does seem to hold memories. And I suggested this on the last video. It's not just spiritual downloads, it's spiritual uploads, because as above, so below. What is wrong with the idea of getting spiritual uploads through your souls? Because if we are earthing, and Mother Earth is a life giver, then it makes sense that some of this energy will come up into us anyway. And I think with this pole shift, this polarity shift, it will totally flip over and it will come up into us. And then we have got to be the best versions of ourselves and the most benevolent and all loving we can be, because that is an awesome power to then radiate out. And we want to be radiating out the right energy. Otherwise, we might as well forget it now. If we're going to just replicate this system and be self-serving and greedy. Lee's not here, which is a shame. Flat Earth British Shove, because he asked me a question, and I didn't see it till after I'd finished, and he said, "Do I smoke weed?" Yes, I do. I'm not afraid to say it. It helps. I find personally, it's again, there's no hard and fast rules on this. If it feels right to you and you benefit from it, do it. If it makes you feel paranoid, well, don't do it. It's as simple as that. Nobody knows you better than yourself. Just catching up again. Yeah, so just be yourselves, believe in yourselves, because there is a huge change coming. A lot of you that I talk to have this shared feeling of this sort of finality about it. And it has to be, because otherwise we're just going to go around on this insane reset. I mean, just common sense and logic. If you look at, just go on Wiki and look at population 100, 120 years ago, it's 1 billion. And it's grown to 7.5 billion. So that's a 6.5 billion increase in that 100, 120 years. Now, take into account there's been 2 world wars and many other things and many other wars. Those numbers on to get the true figure. So if we can go from 1 million and an increase to 7.5 million in 100 years. Now let's look back to the previous 100 years. And then things really don't start to make sense, because the implication is if the increase is that great, then what happened to all these people? Because this Victorian era, this boom period of prosperity, all these buildings were supposed to be built. Well, where's all the people come from then? Because if there's only 1 billion around the world, there's some pretty isolated areas, and it's like, well, why would you need so many large buildings? Just logic on that alone, it's like red alarm bells are going off. It's like, hang on a minute. And then you start looking into these structures and things as well, and you think, none of this actually makes sense. History is like going in reverse. Hello, Light Moon. Anybody seen, I think it's a Plain Truth for You channel. There's a very good one not so long ago about the use of magnets. And it apparently it restructures water, and it does away with the need for a water filter to take the fluoride out. And it can be attached, these magnets can be put around the pipes, probably fairly close to the main source, I would have thought. But I would recommend, I'll try and find it and put that in the link on the descriptions about that, because that is definitely something to look into. It's a case of take, for example, tinned foods that are in water. Well, that could be fluorided water. There's no two ways about it. It is a case as much as possible as try and be as self-sufficient as possible. If you can, then grow your own food. Try and find out the sources if you can't. But there's also the problem with the chemtrail and the cloud seeding, and what is really coming out of those clouds, and is it in the rain? It's got to be in the rainwater as well. So it's going into the soil. So I think it's a case really of don't worry too much, because again, it's being pushed as a fear energy. I feel the way we're going to overcome this is at an electromagnetic level that comes from within, the energy that we radiate out. And as I've said before, and I've used this as an example, or the best example I can think of. I get quite a few requests for healing for all sorts of things, and I'm channeling an energy from something that does not have a physical form, but I'm bringing it in to this 3D reality, and it is having a positive effect. Now, if I can do that, and it's not something that's exclusive to me, I'm only channeling it anyway. I'm just the medium through which it is working, and I'm sending it off somewhere. I'm doing like the arteries do, where it deposits something around the body, but this is the greater body. I'm depositing something with another aspect of the universe, because again, we're vessels, but we're on dry land, obviously, but we're in a sea of lies. So it's always something within something else. It's a bit like Russian dolls, really. Where was I going with this? I've completely lost the train of thought now. Chemtrails are self-created. Your thoughts. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, we by thinking about these things, because we do create in the mind, we can be bringing them towards us. But it's that fine line, I think, of awareness. But then don't go with the fear of it. I think it's the fear from something that is the problem. Because if we're thinking, oh no, 5G, for example, then we're now took on a negative aspect to it, which we're now spreading. I take it you mean bingo rather than bongo. But vowels are the fowls anyway. That's another thing I think I've noticed when I've talked to people on Messenger, and there's send me a message and then correct the spelling, and I don't actually see the spelling error because I'm hearing the intent of the message rather than actually reading the words, if that makes sense. I'm sort of, as I go, I'm sort of sharing my sort of awakening experiences and sort of, well, this is what I can do so far. The ear ringing, it's not tinnitus for a start. It's not 5G with me. It changes depending on who I talk to in intensity, and it seems to be higher in the ear with some people, lower in the ear with the other. It's a frequency, but I'm on Ethernet cable. There is no Wi-Fi anywhere near, unless there's a mast or something. Obviously, it's a Trojan horse, and you can't see it. It's an unseen enemy, as it were. Oh, they're always messing with them. This is the thing. When you think about it, though, they're pretty poor attempts. All this silencing and pulling the volume on the microphone, shutting down accounts and things, because it's a Spartacus effect anyway. There's so many people speaking out anyway that I don't think they can keep the lid on this. I don't think we've got to worry at all. There you are, Percy. Yeah, that's another one. Sometimes I'll be on Messenger, for example, and somebody else is type. I'm waiting for a reply, but I'm not going to sit there and wait for a reply. I may switch over from Facebook to YouTube, and then something will trigger, and I'll go back, and I can see that the other person is replying, and this is early signs of telepathy coming out, for definite. That would probably be cruciferous vegetables that cause that, Percy. But yeah, there is definitely. I'm trying to think of an umbrella way of, there is no really umbrella because they're specific to specific people, but as a growing awareness, I think, is the best way, and that is heading towards the telepathic route. Now, the telepathy could be just purely projected out. It could actually be going through magnetic fields, magnetic lines in Earth, through the soles of our feet. It could even be we're channeling through the internet cables and using it, flipping that round and using that to advantage. Because this is the thing, this whole internet, if you think about the word, your internet, that means you're caught. You're in a web, a worldwide web of this spider. And look what a spider does to its prey in a web. It wraps it up further into the web and paralyzes it. But look at the way this has allowed us to talk to each other. And I know when I've sometimes you just, there's something and you think, I'll add that person as a friend, or that person's going to send me a friend request, and it's like you're meeting a family member almost, and there's an instant soul recognition going on. It's amazing. It's hard to even put into words, but you can sometimes, it's like you almost instantly know that person. You feel their energy, and everybody's energy does feel slightly different and distinct, I've found. I mean, ears ringing now, but obviously it's so much easier to do on a one-to-one basis like that than when there's multiple people, because I'm not that fantastic at it. It's an ongoing thing, and it's starting to really sort of ramp up now. There's more and more, and you will find, particularly in the run up to the end of this year, there's going to be happening, and you will feel and experience things, each of you. What there be will be connected to whatever your particular gifts are, because they are all gifts. If you think about it in the three-dimensional sense of this, you've naturally got some people who are better artists, you've got some people who are better at making things with their hands, other people are better with their brain. So why not with the spiritual? We'll all have a certain set of abilities, just like in this reality, that we can all do. We can all, most of us, unless something has happened, we can all walk, we can all talk, for example. But then there are things some people are better at than others, and I think spiritually you'll have greater gifts in particular areas. It's not going to be a case of all of you will suddenly can read tarot cards, or all of you can suddenly do healing, because I'm sure there are differences, although we are all part of a collective. There is also I would say a large group that have probably not found their special gifts yet, and it may be because things haven't happened to unlock those. It's said that in times of the greatest adversity is when the true human spirit comes out. So what about spiritually, in this energetic sense? I think that will happen as well. The best is yet to come. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, look at the way education is done. Why teach mathematics to children at such an early age? As long as they can count up to 10, then the parents can surely teach them the basics. But straight away it's negative. Oh, you've got that wrong. No, do that again. That's not right. That's the wrong answer. It's all negative, negative, negative. And this is the annoying thing, it's been proven to work in the Netherlands and in Germany. They have these open classes out in the countryside and expressions with art, and it works, and they learn languages much earlier on as well. But the UK, oh, it's dreadful. And then I don't think you don't get a choice of what language you want to learn either. It's just forced upon you, whether you like it or not. That's still a bugbear. um, but yeah, it's I wouldn't in a piece. Temple of Impermanence channel. Listen to Yusa. She does some wonderful, uplifting and honest presentations, talking about her own experiences of what she's been through, and they're really uplifting. I really recommend, and listen to Christine Holographic Multiverse. Listen to Roots channel. I can't remember the lady's name, and Nicole Stellarvision as well, and Way of One. Listen to Lee. He's brilliant. If he doesn't lift your spirits, then nobody can. But those 5 channels, they're ones I listen to. So, hi Martin. Baal Death Cult tonight. Ah, Martin, are you're doing you've got a presentation coming up? I take it. Please, yes. Oh, I'm quite happy with the way things are going. Just steady and slow, and build it up. And I spark off all the other channels. Just put a link in my chat so we're here. Oh, I don't even know how to do this. all I've got is the comments box beside. I'll do a link in some when I get to the editing stage. That'll probably be the best way with that. But if you've got a presentation come on, I want to finish this one because I want to listen to yours. Because free plug time. For those of you that don't know, get yourself over to Martin Leaker's channel, Flat Earth British. Which one are you on, Martin? Are you on your name, or are you on back on Flat Earth British? Which one do you want me to push? Anyway, well, I'm going to say go look. You see the name on the chat. Oh, right. Sorry, my mistake. No, I'm disappointed. Well, I hope you've got another presentation, another brilliant presentation coming up. That Nemo one, Omen, Nemo, brilliant. Can't beat a bit of organic tobacco. Something else to me. When you read this on this packet here, if the camera catches up, I'll just read it out. Tobacco smoke contains, again, it says tobacco smoke contains over 70 substances. It doesn't say the tobacco causes cancer. It says over. Of course, they don't tell you anywhere. There's no list of ingredients to tell you what they are. Funny that. This is the thing, you have to be so careful with this, with the words, because what's sometimes implied is the opposite. And as I said before, for security reasons is a great one they use, and that's when you have to ask the question, maybe not out loud, maybe just to yourself, just think about it. When they say for security reasons, whose security? You know, who has got more to lose and who has got more to gain? A predator is frightened of being discovered, so it will cover as many bases. It does not want to be seen. This is what we're dealing with. As I've said before, they are, you can call them entities. I don't know if we ever will really know what they truly look like, because they hide behind so many masks to say as something else. They obviously don't like their true form either, which comes back to that whole Medusa thing. So Yes, we should all have a piss off a phony day. I was thinking I might one day just go to a church service, sit right at the front, and just sit there and just stare constantly at the priest and see if I can unearth them. And then if they ask at the end, say, "What are you doing?" Say, just saying, I say, just seeing if you're misled or if you're willfully misleading people. See what they say. It's funny, actually. That's another thing with the awakening, people's energy. A lot of these externally controlled people, to me, I see them with very little light, and some of them I actually see them with like black X's above them. Just like that's a no go, that's a no hope, or they're not worth saving. Because I'm not of this all love and light thing that everybody can be saved. Yeah, everybody can be saved if they choose to be saved. Some of them seem happy in their misery. Let's face it, do you really want somebody who's what's the word, self-serving and greedy like a lot of these politicians? Do we really want in this new world? Well, let's face it, I think we're all in agreement, regardless of whether we want to believe it was or wasn't, that this utopian Tatarian concept of a worldwide, I don't like using the word empire, way of life, shall we say, was probably, yeah, let's call it a Tatarian way of life. I think we're all in agreement in its overall picture. That's what we want, and we want a world where if there is free energy, then we can. If it's free, then it should be free. We shouldn't be paying for it. And I mean, here's another example. My mother got this great big pack, handle with care, Christmas magic inside. Bernardo's. So how much did all that packaging cost? All the fancy address labels inside. That's supposed to be charity money that is going to children. But it's funny how all these charities can have all these fancy printed things that they send out. I mean, the most ridiculous ones are the how was it, sponsor a leopard for just £3 a month, and you'll get a newsletter and you'll get a cuddly toy. Well, no, I want the money to go where it's supposed to be going. I don't trust any of these things, because if they're going into war-torn regions, what's the setup for actually making sure that the supplies get to where they're supposed to and they're not being hijacked by warlords? Because we can all buy Bono a new jet. I mean, that's disgusting that all this is allowed to happen. Even the money people, and it's always people who've got less will give the most. And talk about being misled and sold up the garden path on that one. You're just funding terrorism, unfortunately. That aid is not going where it's supposed to go. I mean, the donkey sanctuary, for 80 years, they have been trying to, not donkey sanctuary, I think it's World Donkey something or other. For 80 years, it's like you're just tackling the outplay end of things. It's like cancer. Let's go and give money to fight cancer. Well, what a waste of time when the cure's already out there and have been suppressed anyway. And that's another subject which will probably get us this going silent again. But we're coming up to 51 minutes now. So I'm gonna knock this on the head on the hour. Yes, unfortunately, logician tender stone it is all depopulation adjusted. That it's not a series of wars; it's one ongoing war. The evening performance is the highlight of the day, as it were. If you put it into a medium, the giveaways that tell you that there's something very wrong with official history. I never. And it's a lovely way of getting rid of the architectural evidence. And it's a superb way of just culling numbers of people. And if you look at the word occult, which means secret, I mean, cult is just a root word is cull or kill. Whichever way you look at it, it means the same thing, and that this is ongoing. This is the insanity of it. I would say it's roughly about a 500-year cycle. That takes us back to about 1620. So you've got the authorized King James version of the Bible in 1610, where everything's been rewritten. I would suggest that Josephus Flavius and Francis Bacon are contemporaries or very close. Yes, FEB family, yay! Actually, I'm slipping, aren't I? Look, happy hats. Gotta have a happy hat. This is my favourite happy hat, and I feel happiest when I'm wearing it. Now, these days I wear sunglasses all the time when I go out because those awful neon car lights that's damaging the blue spectrum part of the eye. It's burning your retinas out, so don't stare at them. They put them on cars on purpose, as well as the street lights. Gandalf in the prison shirt and a hat. I should have done this better. I should have had my top hat as well. It's only a short one, but I could have done a happy hat thing. Gandalf Dundee, I like that. That's very good. Anyway, anybody got any questions? I don't say I'll have the answers, but maybe some people here will. So somebody fire a question. Somebody must have a question about something. Something that's puzzling them. No? That's good. If that's the case. But questions are, when you're asking, you are as king, which is what we should all be. See, don't. Where did I get this hat? eBay. Yeah, I just went on eBay, and I think it's about £15. The top hat came from a shop in Brighton called Mad Hatters. It was either pay £20 or pay £60 and upwards for a really good one, and I thought, no, I can't justify that. Where are we? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. The 33, that's been covered a lot. That again, for those that don't know, the 33 vertebrae in your spine. There's always a positive, a light and dark meaning to all these things. Have I ever seen a fairy? Larry Grayson on the Generation game in the 1970s. John Inman on Are You Being Served? No, personally, I haven't. I knew of someone who was adamant that they did, and I don't have any reason to doubt them. That's an interesting subject as well, isn't it? These little people. Ireland is full of stories of them in myth and folklore. There was also, I think it was Martin featured it when it was Flat Earth British Channel. There was these miniature houses that were too accurate to be models. And what's to say that there aren't all different sizes? They tell us that horses were miniature in the sort of, was it post-dinosaur age? You do get, I mean, you've got big cats and you've got domestic cats, and in between sort of lynxes and things, the in-between sizes. So why, I don't see any reason why there isn't something humanoid that is we would class as miniature, and we are like the middle size, as it were. And yeah, they could be other dimensional as well. There's nothing to say they may not have been subjected to the same things that we have, and have a slightly different role, different purpose in the grand scheme of things. Yes, Rue, there was a very famous picture. I think it did turn out to be a fake in Sussex, I think about early 1900s. I seem to remember. But yeah, the fact that they feature in Disney, for example, and quite a lot of other films, just like giants, I wouldn't write anything off. It may well be myth. There may be some reality to it, but then there's also that saying "away with the fairies." What does that really mean? Could that be going through a portal or something? What are these fairies? Because don't forget, there's also, you've got pixies, elves. One of them is one of them is supposed to be darker. Yeah, funny, I thought that and didn't say that, Niven, about their wings. So yeah, they could be miniature angels. Um, the jury's out on that one. There's no, I'm not going to say they're an elf. You're a Welsh elf, Martin. An Estonian Welsh elf. That's brilliant. But yeah, if it empowers you, embrace it. I say, don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. If you want to say you're an elf, then be an elf. Yeah, that's the way I'd go. That's the way I'd go with it. And I've said this before. If you feel like a particular mythical deity or something from Greek, and that feels right, and you feel you have that energy inside you, then embrace it, because it will empower you and it will make you a stronger and better version of yourself. As long as you do it in a benevolent way, that's all that matters. Anyway, hi T, so TYY, can't really read it, but you know who I mean. Yeah, I try and listen, or try and catch Martin every time he's live. And as I said before, well, I think most of you already know, the FEB family are strong in it, which is lovely. Thank you. That's sort of, it's like, come over to my house for the evening, spend the evening here. It is like does have a family feel about this. This is definitely growing and going somewhere. And it's growing. I can feel it. The energy and everything is changing, and I do think the dark side has control and everything, and that includes the calendar, the see all end lender. Because again, monetary term, they're on borrowed time. But so 2020, that is an expression of having clear vision, which is also written as 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus, which I remember seeing it when I had an eye test, when I was professionally driving. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. Why is it 2020 and yet they've expressed it as what adds up to 18? But now going down the spiritual path and the way the control system uses numbers, I can see why. Yeah, the 33. Yeah, this is spiritual gardening as well, if you think about it. We're planting seeds of truth. We're planting seeds. Get it right. We're planting seeds of positive energy. So we are growing a whole new universe between us collectively in the world that we want, the way we want it, without all this shit that's going on. No more mud floods. That's got to be a thing. We need to have we need to have a policy of we need to restore these buildings and find those other lower floors to them. And I mean, we wouldn't have a homeless problem then, and you wouldn't need to build anything because those buildings are awesome. Let's face it. Even with the Phoenician vomit all over them, they're still pretty awesome. We don't need all these wretched buildings, and we certainly don't need any more. We don't need any more countryside destroyed. If anything, what we need back is more trees. But just think about this whole what do they call it now? Climate change. I've seen the things that come up on Facebook about the permafrost is retreating. Well, therefore, that opens up more land for growing. And if you didn't have this illusion of nations and national boundaries that tells us where we can or can't go, and we've got to get permission to go somewhere, well, what about that northern area of Russia and the northern area of Canada that is so sparsely populated? If you could grow stuff there and you could have people migrate there, and we could really change things and work with nature instead of working against it, which is this insane plan at the moment. Yes, Rue. Because that's another funny thing, isn't it? We've got all this exploration all going on up there. Yeah, right. With space crap mission to somewhere fictitious that doesn't even exist, but they've not started all the ocean floors. It's funny that it's like sort your own home out first, surely. What's below us? Why haven't they drilled? Why did that drill bit stop and it wouldn't penetrate any further in the last 5 years of that 25-year drilling experiment in Russia in Kola? Interesting name for a place, Kola. Are they on coke? But why just do one drill? Maybe there's something, if they'd have moved I mean, if you ever do DIY and you want to drill in the wall, and say it's behind the plaster, it's brick. It could be a stone, a really solid rock in the construction of that brick, and that drill bit is not going to go through it. And so why not with the Kola drilling experiment? Why didn't they go half a mile further over and do it, repeat it, and see if there is, and probe the ground a bit more? I mean, human curiosity. If I was in that position and had the authority and the resources to do it, I'd be saying, come on, let's do some more drilling holes and let's find out what else we can find out. Let's see if we've come across something deep below ground. And what is it anyway? Why can't we penetrate it? But there's no logical, inquisitive follow-up questions. It's more sort of, oh no, let's keep that all quiet and let's cover it all up. They know what's going on, this control system, for definite. They know. It's all too convenient when everything goes quiet on everything. And as for this space exploration, any other thing like archaeology is subject to funding. But I mean, the purse is not on. I'm not a purse on. It's not open for them to keep coming in and stealing energy in any form, financial or whatever, out of me. It's not going to happen. I'm fed up with all this bull crap in this world. It needs to change. I like it. No, I'm not going to go and get another hat. It would take too long, and we've gone over the hour again, and I sort of run out of bits to say. But I just to recap from it's on the previous presentation now because of this silencing of sound. I mentioned about Prometheus, pro, me, the, us. Well, the, as in theology, study of God. So the we're talking about source here. Pro is always a prefix. Proceed, procreate. It's the start of something. So me, the soul, the source, us, the God in all of us. So that organ that is being pecked out by the eagle. And bear in mind, the eagle is a predator and a scavenger. It's looking for prey. It comes down and grabs with balls and steals, basically. But why? I'm suggesting it's not as literal as the kidney. It's any of the organs or even the mind. It is feeding on our energy, because in that Prometheus story, it's suffering being pecked out all day long, and then grows overnight, and it's a repeat, and it goes over and over again. Well, how long is the day? Are we talking about a day as in an age? Because day is doesn't necessarily mean 24 hours. It can be used in various other forms, like the year. When we're talking about the great year, it's 25,920 years, this procession. So yeah, profound. Yes. That's reminded me of another word, actually. Profound, profund as well. If you take the O, the whole out of it, you're left with a profund. You'll notice something else. Another one is fundamental. The fundamental basis of something. Well, do we really want to be funding a mental? If we're going to be funding a mental as in an idea, let's make sure it's a good one, not an insane one. Four angels. Yeah. Yeah, I try to be proactive, as and when I get a sort of either a spiritual download, or I'm sparked by watching somebody else's presentation. I think, well, yeah, it's not knowledge for me to keep to myself. Then share it out. Anybody who wants to listen will listen. Anybody who doesn't won't. Just catching up with the comments again. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. And I just want to say thank you very much for everybody that has persevered with this third attempt, and so far, well, it's been successful. I think that also proves about the words to some degree. It might be worth anybody else who does presentations, not Martin, because you've had all this hassle, but certain keywords do seem to have an effect on how good the connection is, and I think there is. It's an AI program that is hearing keywords, but I also think if I can say it in the right way, that I can actually confuse it, and throw it into some sort of mayhem, so it can't distinguish, because the words can have two meanings and yet sound the same. So if I can somehow fool it so it can't make its mind up, as it were, could have some fun. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. We're here to have an experience, but let's make it a good one, I say. We're here to have fun. Had a smashing day the other day in the park. So, and feeding the ducks with the children, that was wonderful. Simple pleasures, that was really good. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rudy. And very quickly, yeah, Jordan Maxwell, Adventure Diva. I mean, he's been going since 1959. You imagine he's talking about control over governments, and then Kennedy's assassinated or murdered, I should say. And he points out about the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy. One was president in 1860, the other in 1960, and they're both shot in 1863 and 1963 by guys with three-barreled names, who one fled a theatre and was caught in a warehouse. The other one was in a warehouse and was caught in a theatre. And it's amazing. And it's like, this isn't coincidence. This is stage play yet again. So reversing script a little bit. And I would seriously, anybody who hasn't ever heard Jordan Maxwell, please do, because he's been an amazing inspiration, and he's unlocked so much with the words. His speciality is theology, and the last one is like a little porter cabin with lights on the image. I think I linked it on the description of 2 or 3 presentations back from the other day, so you can find it there. But he's another one definitely worth listening to. I can't recommend him enough. He has also alluded that he can't say all that he wants to say, so obviously he's on the right track and has been threatened. Even Alex Jones has mentioned that he has 4 young children. Now, if you've got, it could happen to any of us. Let's be honest. This is worth actually talking about. Sorry to go on a little bit longer. If you're doing this public speaking, you have got to be prepared mentally and emotionally that anything can happen. And because let's face it, you'll probably find, well, I'm pretty certain that most of you are the black sheep in your family, and going through on this spiritual path and awakened, and the rest of the family probably think you're crazy anyway. As it seems to be going with humanity is splitting in two, into the majority seem to be devolving mentally. The rest of us are growing spiritually. We're talking different languages anyway, and the spiritual thing is all about letting go. Everything has to come from within, and we all have the power of choice. You can't carry anybody. Yeah, I agree, Rudy. I think part of it was a threat on his children, from what he has sort of tried to allude to. But obviously, in that position, you'd have to be very careful. I'm not saying. I mean, I never really liked him, to be honest. I think he's that gruff, irritating voice. He's just a loudmouth as far as I'm concerned, and it's a big. I think it was quite a big channel, and it's portrayed. I did see one recently, and talking about like it's a worldwide news organisation almost. It's like, well, if you're a worldwide news organisation, well, that alone tells me alarm bells are going off. What are you, a sort of truth-seeking corporation or something? I don't normally sort of call people out on this thing, but I think we can make an exception here, because I think most people will see it anyway. But of course, don't forget, there's always going to be a mixture of lies and truth, the half truths, half lies. That's the critical bit. It's like when I showed this earlier, tobacco smoke contains over 70 substances shown to cause cancer, but nothing to tell you what these substances are. But notice this: tobacco smoke contains. It doesn't say tobacco smoke causes cancer. So, but most people will see, oh, smoking causes cancer, and that's all they see, and they won't look carefully and read what is right in front of them. This is the thing to do with everything. If you hear this theatre from politicians and things, just listen very carefully what they're saying, and it's often reverse speech. You're assuming they're talking about you. Same as Facebook when they talk about community standards, same as YouTube. Contravenes community standards. It's not yours and my community, it's their community that they're referring to. That's why they silence things, because they don't want that information shared out which proves that we're sort of going on the right direction, and it's unstoppable now anyway. Yeah, sadly, Percy, the genuine journalists are on a very sticky wicket, and the editor is going to have overall say, and he's only doing what he's told, the narrative that they want anyway. It's a pretty much a hopeless task. The only way we're really going to break out of this is to start having that spirit of American independence, just going by the official narrative here, and just start saying, no, we're not paying these taxes. We don't agree with this. You're not serving us. You're mismanaging money. That's why we all have national debts, because you're overspending and you're making a complete cock up of it. And it has got to stop. It's as simple as that. And it won't be done by within the law, because the laws are walls. Law is wall backwards, basically, and they are meant to govern. That's why they are a government. Same as the banks. Everybody talks about the Federal Reserve. What about the Bank of England? Go pop down to the local branch of your Bank of England and open an account, and you'll find that's in private hands, because that does not have high street banks. It's all owned and controlled. The illusion is to make it appear that they're all separate things, and unfortunately a lot of people are falling for this. Once you see past that illusion and see that everything is interrelated, the information that's put out is to generate fear mostly. It's that discernment that comes to see what is being put out to promote fear. Mild Jane cigarettes. That's not something I've ever heard of in the UK. No idea on that one. Second-hand smoke. Smells nice. No, I don't know. I personally try not to blow it directly at another person. I really don't know on that. I'm gonna be honest and say I don't know. I could take a stab at this, that it would depend on the person. If it's someone who's smoking, who's had the full set of vaccines and whatever else mixed in, then probably the second-hand smoke is not going to be a good thing. It is also going to depend on whether they are the manufactured cigarettes. I mean, you've got these added things in the tobacco, so that the ready-made cigarettes are a horrendous price these days. They've got so many chemicals and things, and I think they are the problem. Also, I think it will be something in the papers and probably in the filters as well. It's cumulative, because these things are always done in a subtle way. The last thing that this control system wants is like something you can openly pinpoint a finger that is going to unravel the whole lot. So that it's always done in little gradual stages across the board, because they don't want people joining the dots and seeing the bigger picture, that it is just all part of an ongoing system of culling the population and keeping the herd down. Yeah, the saltpeter was a big one. That's apparently been taken out. I used to have a next door neighbour who was the sort of person who would read all the small print, and she did write to the manufacturer of her cigarettes and said, "Why are these cigarettes going out?" And she did get a reply. She was quite good for things like that. Rare character. But yeah, she was one of these people that would, if she bought a power tool, she would read the whole leaflet first, which is probably a good thing, because it is always buyer beware, and it is deliberately put in small print, and it is masses of it, and they play on the fact that people won't read it anyway. I mean, how many times, if you sign up to something on the internet where it's got terms and conditions, how many of you honestly read it? You really just want to get on. Maybe it's a newer email account and you just want to get in to send an email. I've done it. I haven't looked at them. Yeah, tick tab, click here, accept terms and conditions. The annoying ones I find are though when you get sent a link and then you're trying to actually read it, and then you get all these pop-up things keep getting in the way, and then it keeps jumping on the screen while there's more and more adverts being slotted in. And it's like, oh, it's like, I just want to read the article. No, I do not want to subscribe and get alerts for every other thing you bring out. I've just been sent this, and all I want to do is read this. But you know how it is. Angela 22, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. It's said that there's minute traces of nicotine in foods, which might explain the addictiveness to some of them, as well as the to read on a post about it. But yeah, it makes sense. People will get binges for certain foods. It might not necessarily be the salt, not like cravings with pregnancy, but some people are addictive in that. It may not be sugar, it may be traces of nicotine. It's something giving them that temporary feel good thing. It follows the same pattern though, doesn't it? It's a superficial feeling of well-being that, and to end on a really good note, I agree with Martin that the station, particularly with before the digital frequencies, the VHF, the AM, and the medium wave and the long wave, as you went away from the transmitter, that signal would decay. Now, what I've suggested is when you see these celebrities and they look like somebody from a photograph in the 1900s, it's because it is the same human shell, and these demonic entities change these human suits like we would change clothes. And then they put them away, store them, and bring them out again 100 or so years later, and then they reuse them. Because let's face it, if you were a demonic entity, you would want something, you'd want a clothing that you like. Now, would you like one that's full of vaccines and full of toxins that's possibly not going to last? You'd want something that's going to be able to sit on the throne for 90 odd damn years. So I don't think they've got. I think they've made a blunder, and their wardrobe is not as big as they thought. And because this is an imperfect immortality, and I'm of the idea that it is the life force of a young baby, the innocence, the inner sense that they are drawing on to jump entity from body to body. And they've only got a limited number of them, and they're starting to decay. And I think we're seeing the end of it. It said that that two of the, was it a Rothschild and a Rockefeller granddaughter, have dropped down dead. So I think there's something in this. It feels right. There's certainly a feeling of finality to it. Oh, the sound's playing up again. That's interesting. That could be a mixture of this end and the people are listening, because you can guarantee that they're aware of who we all are. Don't be mistaken to think that any of us are hidden. What's the point of being hidden? That's their tactics. I'll be open. I've said before, come and get me. I have no fear of death. So there's nothing they can threaten me with. Yeah, they could torture me, but the actual death can only happen once. And without the fear of that, they've got no power over me. It's fantastic. And it is a freeing feeling, is the best way I can describe it. Oh no, oh no worries, it, Nick. They like to have their fun and play about with their internet connections and things, but they're pathetic, really. That's if that's all they can do. This is the thing. Remember that they don't have any power except deception and illusion, and the only way they can pull things off and maintain their power is through deception on humanity and using humanity against itself. This is why I said people are their own worst enemy, or they're falling for all of this. So oh, right, Percy, thank you. Yeah, that probably best not to actually put the comment on here about what the things are, but I don't know. That's the other thing. Photographs. I've found with awakening, when you see a photograph of one of these beings, the energy, their current energy, seems to be showing in the photographs, not the energy of the time that photograph was taken. The energy seems to be outside of time. So it gets very easy just by looking in the eyes or just feeling their energy. You know if they're a good or a bad one. That's being featured, and most of them that are being featured, if they're politicians or anything like that, they've got that same look in the eyes. A whole lot of them. But yes, I don't think we have. It's not going to happen overnight, but I don't think we have that long to wait. Things are starting to collapse all around. There does seem to be a general questioning more of things. So we are definitely on the right track. It's never going to be easy with any of this. If it was easy, we would have done it by now, a long time ago. But I think the internet has been the Achilles heel, the step too far, because it's allowed us to talk to each other and share the information and put us into contact with each other. Yes, they shut channels down. Yes, they can silence individuals. But overall, it's unstoppable. This is snowballing and it's going to get bigger and bigger. And we've got this. Yes, thank you, Rue. Yeah, I'm going to go now. Thank you, because I've gone over a half hour over anyway. So thank you all for joining me. I appreciate all the comments and the well wishes and supporting this channel. And yeah, go and listen to Martin. That's what I'm going to do. So hopefully see you all over there. So thank you very much. Ta-ta for now. You see it's live because it won't shut off again. It will close down in a minute. Why does it always do this? There we go. Right. Ta-ta for now. No, still not shut down. This is crazy. Oh, come on. This is incredible. I'll have to just shut it down and then, oh, I don't know. That's very nice, Niven. No, I want to go and see Martin.